Hello. Welcome back to A Higher Source. We are delighted that you have decided to join us right now. Your participation in listening to these weekly messages is essential to the healing of a universe in desperate need of healing. By ingesting the vibration that is currently falling on your ears, you will begin to tune to a higher frequency. It is this higher frequency that most humans have been programmed not to hear. But it is there. It is always there. You just have to tune out the chaos to consume it. We are the Intergalactic Council of Love Vibes, and we are here today with the message of love. In fact, love is everywhere. It is the base element of life. However, love has been hidden beneath a heavy blanket of fear. Why fear? Because fear is the main motivation behind most human behavior. And the sinister ones in charge of your planet have perfected its use. When you look at it, it's easy to see why. Fear is inherent as part of the human condition. When human beings first graced the planet Earth, fear was the main mechanism used to survive. They faced grueling circumstances and had to fight beast and weather if they wanted to live another day. But you humans learned to build shelter, to tame animals, to grow crops. Lessons given to you by a higher source, but still you learned them. Give yourself credit. Here's the problem. You removed the need for fear, yet those in high government positions, who are mostly still exhibiting strong traits of their extraterrestrial DNA, discovered that fear could still be used as a motivating factor. It became a tool used to control. In the modern world you live in, you don't face the fears that your bodies are geared for. Your modern-day fears are based in ethereal what-ifs, not actual physical dangers. Think about the things you are afraid of. Are they real things or are they images that you conjure up in your mind? Think about why these fears might serve a darker purpose. Understand the programming. It is possible to abandon fear and leave it in the past with the ancestors. But first you must recognize just exactly what it is that you fear. Strip down the programming. Look beyond the surface. Understand it is ego. You are not your ego. Your ego is programmable. Reprogram your ego first, and the rest will follow. In a few minutes, we're going to listen into a conversation between Holly and Mark. It's clear that Mark is struggling with his current location on the spiral of existence. He's pulling away from seeking joy and wallowing in the lack of it in the current moment. This is common. In fact, it's essential. The path to enlightenment always travels through pain. It always makes you question yourself. If you believe that you are fully awakened, you're wrong. Spiritual growth is never ending. It's a cycle of ups and downs. Do you feel comfortable? Good. That's when shit suddenly gets real, when you least expect it. You're about to go through it. We welcome it because it means you will soon be taking another step up the ladder. Don't get depressed. Embrace what you feel. Explore it. Where does it come from? Where can it take you? You will see that Mark is in what he calls the cranky old man phase of his spiritual growth. We feel for him. We get his pain. We understand his dilemma. Yet we know that with Holly's help, he will eventually pull out of it and see that sometimes a helping hand is necessary. We now turn the current moment over to Holly and Mark. Enjoy. We love you.
So I've been thinking a lot lately about fear and just kind of what fear used to be compared to what fear is now, where, you go back to the dawn of time and fear was mostly a physical thing. It was probably all a physical thing. It was like fear of saber-toothed tigers eating you, and fear of wondering where your next meal was coming from, and fear of wondering if some rival tribe was going to come in and take your family. And now we've technologically evolved enough to where those things are no longer fears. They're no longer fears to have those. There's really no physical fear. I mean, of course, there are people who worry about where they're going to find their next meal and things like that. But for the most part, our fear is now turned into kind of a fear of, I don't know, it's not so much physical fears. You know what I mean?
The old fear that we used to feel is now kind of what we use for thrill seeking. The physical,
right.
where it kind of takes you out of your brain and you're just living in your body for that exhilarating moment.
Right.
Where that used to be the ancient form of, oh shit, I'm going to die. I'm going to leave my brain and go into my body to save my body. Now we use it for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's adventure
I
time.
didn't even think of it like that.
We're skydiving, we're roller coastering. We want to be removed from our brain for leisure purposes, not so much for survival.
Yeah.
It's quite a change. We've come a long way, baby, from saber-tooth times.
But how we also have come a long way is where now we seek those things for it's actually to get in touch with the real primal fear. But now
with your animal brain.
But we still have fear.
Yeah. Sure.
But since those things we have fears of are no longer fears, 'cause like you said, even the things that used to be the greatest fears to human beings are now what we do for fun. So what's replacing those fears? What are we?
It's a new kind of fear where it lives in your head. It's this anxiety.
Right, exactly.
It's this constant anxiety, and the media and the powers that be and the omnipotent they have clearly directed it towards an anxiety-based fear protocol, and they do everything they can to keep us in that, because as long as we're in that ancient anxious same thing, but as long as we're in that like fear zone, we just freeze like a rabbit.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the who's using the fear. You know what I mean? It's now it's fear for gain of a class. I don't even want to say it's personal gain.
No, it's just used to bully you into keeping your head down, buying what they tell you to buy, living where they tell you to live, doing what they tell you to do.
Right, and don't look at me living the good life.
Right.
But do and be jealous.
Pay no mind that I don't do any of the things that I'm expecting you to do for me. Mm-hmm. Saith the 1% and the employers and the corporate. Oh, it's not me. It's just the corporation. I love that excuse. And it's like, there's a fucking person behind the corporation.
No, there's not.
Bro.
That's the beauty of the corporation.
Okay, not it's person.
A council.
There's people. Yes, a people behind it. And so they all can just circle jerk past the buck. Oh, it's not me. It's the corp. It's the corp. And I was like...
Right, and the corporation. This is why I always find it funny when people think that... people who are good businessmen will be good in government because they were good in business, but government and business are two different things. Like the whole point of
they're not, but they should be.
They should be. Yeah, the whole point of business is to make a profit, and the goal of government isn't to make a profit. So it's like, and it's funny too because the people who seem to want business people to take over also don't want the government in charge of their stuff, but the government goes and becomes a part of your stuff because that's how the government profits, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
How do we fix it?
I don't know that it can be fixable. I think you just have to recognize, that you are being fed these fears. When you have a fear, I guess you need to look into where is this fear coming from? Is this a rational fear? Is this really okay? Let's just take coronavirus since that's the relevant topic right now and probably what sparked this in my head. Is it? I'm sure it's kind of like a half thing. It's like it really is a serious thing, and I think it really is also being used as a fear tactic. I think anything that comes along, the powers that be take that and say, "Here's something we can make them afraid of."
Any little thing that actually gives substantiated proof of something to be afraid about gets exponential attention, and they're like, "Ooh, we could use this," and they jump on it the second they can, magnify it, amplify it to push their agenda and their cause, does that mean it's not real or not dangerous? It's absolutely real and it's absolutely dangerous. Is it right for human beings to use something that costs thousands of people their lives and their families, their beloved family members and their loved ones? Is it like, it just seems so wrong to use that for fear, man. They're on it in a second. They.
You just said something that sparked an epiphany, a realization. There are these tragic. It's hard to tell with the media because the mass media or the mainstream media is what is driving the 1%'s agenda, and on whatever media you watch, it's somehow trying to program you.
Sure, it's either just one trick or another. I mean, it's.
And what they do is they find these things, these tragedies that happen, and they jump to it just so that they can say, just like you were saying, so that there can be, here, look, here's something that actually happened. But then in the meantime, when there's not something like that, you're still buying into that fear because you saw that thing that actually happened too. You know what I mean?
You can see how media had to do it or die with the blossoming of the internet and the flattening earth and us being able to communicate with people all over the world freely without a third party. It's no wonder they're listening to us. Yeah. But in order for the news used to go out and tell you what was happening because you needed to know what was happening in your world. You felt completely disconnected, and so you had these trusted reporters that would go to the scene of some emergency, and it somehow felt more helpful at that point because maybe it was something you had never been exposed to or thought of, and seeing that it happened to someone will save you from making the same mistakes. It was valuable then to have this kind of this news and being kept abreast of dangerous situations. But with the free sharing of information, how do these conglomerates stay relevant and rich and famous, and how do these trusted sources evolve so that people still give it half a shit what they're saying when we can just log on and our friends are reporting live from the same disaster and saying it didn't even go down like that?
Yeah.
They're doing it for drama and the ratings, because when they get the drama and the ratings, they get paid.
Yeah.
And watched and become relevant. So of course, it's in the media's best interest to expound on that fear and expound on the drama of everyday existence and use it however they can in order to stay relevant and stay the voice of news. But it doesn't contain the same relevancy and importance that it once did, because we can all just do it now. We're all speaking freely and sharing freely, and it's up to us now. Now there's so many sources of news. Instead of having a single trusted local source of news, now the burden is on us, buyer beware. We hear a bit of information, now it's on us to go find sources to either validate that and back that up, or prove it to be strictly conjecture and totally untrue. Now the burden falls on us to discover the truth in a sea of dramatic interpretations.
Well, and here's the catch. I do that now. So any bit of information that I get, I see, I think, and I think there's no way that's real. And I just type it into Google, and it either tells me if it's real or it's not. But there again, there's somebody telling me whether it's real or not.
How long will Google, it's already compromised.
That's what I'm saying.
How long will any source that we can research stay sovereign, stay uncorrupted, at least in that context? It won't for long. They'll come for that too, and then we'll have to evolve again in our fear and our response and the way we take on information.
Well, I think it's already happening.
Yeah.
You see, it's the word mainstream media. So the current form of mainstream media is in its death throes, and what you're seeing is it in its death throes. And that's the reason our country's in turmoil, is because the people who have the power of the vote mostly are still in that demographic that mainstream media was reaching, and it's slowly shifting. Like you said, they had to either choose or die, right. And they chose, and their view, but they're still dying. But those who
prolonged it, but it's still systemic.
Those who decided to not be part of that corporate control of information jumped And a new media started. There was a new media. The social media started.
And the independent media.
And the independent media. And even things like Instagram, where people, I don't know if that was the intention of Instagram, but it turned into a sharing of information.
It's evolved several times
and
too.
it's also trying to become the mainstream. And when you become the mainstream, there's someone in charge.
Right.
And so, but you're going to see that shift as the current mainstream media dies, and that demographic is no longer in power.
Look how it's
they're going to take over the others.
Yeah, it's becoming this
it's already coming.
Prototype, and the more they do it, the faster they get at it. And you see how Instagram started as totally just a free, open platform. You could post anything. There were no limits on likes. There were no limits on the people you could follow, the people that could follow you back in a day. And then slowly, as it expanded and expanded, and they let it be free, so that they could identify the potential points of power first. So then they started tightening it a little bit on those. And now they say, oh, well, what if we fuck with the algorithm a little bit like this? And sometimes the public responded with, we hate this.
They always hated it.
Yeah, but some things were subtle enough that nobody really noticed. And so they just started to kind of peel away at that. And now it's gotten to the point where you can be shadow banned and not even know that people aren't even seeing your posts. And they limit you on your follows. They limit you on follows you get back. They don't even want to show your likes, or which is fine. I mean, I guess that's fine. But when the whole platform was built on an algorithmic like principle, the more you like something similar, the more that algorithm was going to feed you similar things. To take away the like, it's like, well, who's controlling this or what is controlling this algorithm now? If I'm not liking stuff to see more of what I like, who is selecting what I like for me?
Right.
Yet it seems to still be pretty congruent, which is the scary thing. It's still showing me the things I like.
Well, it's showing you the things it's telling you to like.
It gained enough data on me to understand my predictability patterns, and I'm probably assigned an metaphorical archetype in this algorithm with 7,000 other brown-haired girls. Who knows? Who knows how specific or how broad these little family trees of your habits and your personality type, and what they can sell to you, what they can market to you, what they can show to you, how they can pull you back if they feel like your reach is getting too strong for free.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It was. I remember the moment that it ended as the free platform of artists who could use it. It did not like artists being able to make a living without it sharing some back. And I can see their point on one side of that too. But I remember the moment. It was when the algorithm changed from a chronological order of what you look at into a algorithm based.
Because we were obsessed with the chronology because it felt like you couldn't miss something.
Well,
you always kept returning to it because it felt like there was a gap of time missing if you didn't get it in your order. And so when they took that away, it was like... It
also showed you what was happening right now and all over the world. If you were looking at an image, it had just happened. If it was there now,
and it was a real synchronistic thing because it's like, oh my gosh, my friend in Australia posted the same thing as my friend in Wisconsin, and I've been thinking about the same exact thing all day. It's so funny. Yeah. We'd all blow each other. Oh my God, this is such a crazy synchronicity. But when we lost the chronology, we kind of lost the ability to see it as that immediate.
And that's when you see the divisions. That's when people
the cracks started showing.
The people I was really good friends with online, we just kind of drifted apart because they were no longer in my timelines.
Nice alarms.
I turned it off, I swear.
Sure you did. That was the universe.
But here's what I was thinking the other... Yeah, it's like, hey, no more of this, fool.
Where are you guys going with this? I can hear you over here.
So here's the thing I was thinking the other day. I was scrolling through, looking at pictures of the things I follow and hearting some things. And does this ever happen to you where it just shows you like the same person over and over and over? Then maybe there'll be like 3 of them and it'll just alternate between the 3 and you're like, all right already. I don't want to be the one that hearts up all of your things. And I was wondering, I had this thought, is the algorithm trying to see how many in a row it will post of somebody before you hit the mute button? Because now there's a mute button where you can mute people from showing up in your feed. And I get to a point where I'm like, I want to see something else and I mute them. And
Well, then you don't see anything
then I
forever.
don't. Yeah, I know, but it was better than in that moment. I just couldn't take one more, and I'm wondering if are they using that to think here's how we can shadow ban people without actually like shadow banning them, like
Sure.
just drive them to the point of annoyance where they just get muted naturally.
Yeah, so here was the weird thing. I had a back and forth with one of my Instagram friends. He's a DJ in Arizona. We were going back and forth on something. He reposted me, I reposted him, and then I reposted the repost of his repost. We were just
Yeah.
vortexing. You know how you do that, and it was weird. So I was looking at my story the next day, and I could see, this had 175 views, this had 165, and then it got to Golden's, and no one had viewed it. And so I was like, send me something again, and I tried it again. And that's how we found out he was shadow banned. And he's like, what? Why are they shadow banning me? I'm like, I don't know, but look. And I screenshot it, and like, all these views, and then yours is, no, you can't view it even if you tried. And he's like, what the? He's freaking out. But at least now he knows. But why they picked on him? I don't know. He's just like just a DJ. I mean, he wasn't like getting crazy fighting the power or anything, but I don't know who's selecting it. Let me ask you something else. This is kind of off topic, but does your phone ever just like do its own thing? Does it ever? I mean, sometimes mine butt dials, sure, but sometimes it's not even in my pocket and it goes off on its own little communication schism.
Yeah, your phone has some weird.
That's one of them.
It's just out of nowhere.
But I mean, does your phone like dial or like is it my butt or is it my phone that selected a very strange grouping of people the other day and sent them the Desert Days 2020 meme that I hadn't even seen yet?
I don't know. That's weird. No, my phone doesn't really do that.
It just like spammed 50 of my Instagram followers with a Desert Days meme that I don't even remember looking at. And then I'm like always video dialing people on accident. Sorry, Rashid.
But my phone does do some weird things where I have the fingerprint thing where about every 3 days I have to reset my fingerprint because it stops recognizing my fingerprint.
That's freaky. Maybe you're a reptilian.
And then when I like scroll up across my touchscreen gets really sensitive. Where if I even just touch the scroll, it will like open up, which could be dangerous because it's like, usually we have to kind of double tap or push hard. It's like just trying to scroll. It's like opening up posts, and I have to like go in and change my pointer slower and slower and slower. Something's going on with my fingers.
Sometimes I think my phone is haunted. Like it's got its own agenda. Ouija phone.
Ouija phone.
It's starting to freak me out a little bit lately. And maybe it's just a retrograde. It does spike during a retrograde, but it often just happens when it's sitting on the table. It's crazy. And then I look down and it's like, why'd you call me? Like,
I try during the Mercury retrograde to, when something goes wrong, not blame it on the Mercury retrograde, but I have to say, like I think even if something happened, you're like, first day of retrograde problems, and I'm like, no,
I'm not going to buy into that.
But like it's gone on.
It has proven to be true, hasn't it?
I
know. I want to be like, come on, just don't be all predictable retrograde. Just make it the best shadow period and retrograde ever. And I could be like, man, that retrograde got nothing on me.
I'm texting old friends.
Come on.
Hey, you out there? What you up to? And then they start telling me what they're up to, and I'm like, oh shit. Why did I invite this back in?
I gotta go.
At least it's just old friends, A lot of people in this world, in this time of...
Maybe for you it's old friends, yeah.
What do you mean?
For some other people,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Trouble. There's a lot of people in the world, and that's what I'm saying. For me, I get it off easy. There are people that reach out to exes, and I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's weird. It's weird to think of how that happens. You know what else is weird to think about? The moon, and how like a full moon has all this power, and then, and energy, but it's not like the rest of the moon's gone. The rest of the time it's just not illuminated.
Right. It's like, here's the moon in space. All the other stars have a proverbial eye on the moon. The moon is unchanging. The human perspective of how much of the moon we can see psychologically influences us into just general whackness. Why?
But not, it affects the tides.
Well, yeah, but
even,
I mean,
it's even con to the tides.
But it
into
seems
thinking
crazy.
It's not there the rest of the time.
Right. It's like, you're right. No, peekaboo. Oh, where'd she go? She's still right there.
We're like lunatic children laughing
We
at
are.
it. Oh, she's gone again.
Do it again.
She backed up. Where did she
Do
go?
it again. Humans are weird.
What's up with that?
Humans are weird. I don't know, but if anyone's listening that also has a Ouija board phone and wants to talk about it, reach out.
That's Ursus Esperanto on Instagram.
Thanks, or yeah.
That's how else would they reach out?
Through a higher source. Send them my way.
I don't know.
They come to you.
Sometimes those the council doesn't like to forward. The council likes to.
Why are you speaking about the council like?
Because that's who
It's
controls
one.
the Instagram page. The council decides which messages get through, and if the council decides that maybe they don't want you to have a certain message, the council has its own agenda as well.
Well, if you want to communicate with me, you can definitely take it up with the council first.
But there's no need; they can go directly to you.
I guess if you want to look me up with
But if you want to go through the
with
council,
my weird ass name,
the
try
council's
it.
going to vet you. Whoa!
Jeez.
Excuse me.
I think you warned me about doing that very thing.
What? Oh, I know. That's karma happening. Karma. You want to talk about karma?
Sure.
What do you think? Is it real, or is it one of those manufactured fears used to control people?
I believe it's instant, and we all shine on.
All right. That was pretty quick. Me warning you not to hit the table and then me hitting the table. It's pretty instant. I'll give you that.
Karma's gonna get you.
So I have one more thing I want to talk to you about today. Get your take on.
Why do you care?
I don't know. Why does anybody care?
Okay.
I'm thinking a little bit about spiritual competition and how, as I hate really talking about this anyway. I hate the words associated with like spirituality and awakening, and I hate all that shit. It seems so whatever. But let's just use the words. Oh, there you go. You did it back. That was because you made fun of me for doing it.
Double back reverb, instant karma moment. Anyway.
So as we go on this path, and social media amplifies this, as we're on this path of awakening and going through a spiritual awakening, and you see other people online going through their spiritual awakening, there is, and I can speak from firsthand knowledge because I have it as well. There is a jealousy that happens when you see people further along the path of spiritual awakening, and people who feel they're further along the path also have this kind of condescendingness towards people who are earlier in the path. Does that make any sense?
Yes. If you subscribe that there is an actual path to follow, but I think everybody's individual path is carved out like a sigil. It's kind of like...
So you're saying there's not free will?
I'm saying there's...
Or you're carving it out in real time?
Will is actually so free. You're carving it out in real time. And it's not necessarily linear in the same route as somebody else's. It could be a little circuitous, perhaps. You just had more knowledge about B before you got to A, and it circled back around. You picked up B, you went down to A, then you went back up to B to add A to it, and now you're ready to go to C. Like, everybody just has a little bit of a different pace and scribble in the universe that you're making. So if it seems like someone's advanced, maybe they are in that one particular pit stop of life, but they may be very deficient in something that you're very, very good at. It's not a linear process. It's just like, like grieving and mourning isn't a linear process either. Sometimes you think, okay, I'm finally over it. I'm finally done grieving this thing. And like Tuesday at 4:30 in the middle of traffic, this overwhelming remembrance of grief comes over you. I mean, does that mean you got set further back on your path? Because, like, why does the jealousy come up? I don't know. Just we all want to be over stuff. We all want to be healed. Everybody has pain, even though it's different kinds of pain. Pain is pain, but also it's your pain. And we all just want to like find ways to move through it. So you see somebody that looks like, oh, they had a pretty bad pain and now they're doing pretty well, and you're not quite there yet. Of course that's going to make you a little jealous.
I guess I just, as somebody who at one point in my life believed I was, at the first part of a spiritual awakening, thought, and I think maybe this is true with everybody on the first part of their spiritual awakening, where you want to bring everyone with you and you want to share it, and you think you've attained this knowledge that nobody else has, and you want to teach this knowledge.
Yes.
And of course we live in this current world where we think we have to, everything we're doing has to be linked with money. So that's like suddenly there's all these people, these I don't want to put anybody down, but like these healers and spiritual or enlightenment teachers, and
right.
You know what I mean, and they're going to help people through their spiritual awakening. And it's like, people don't need help through their spiritual.
They absolutely
don't need help through their spiritual awakening. So what
they do?
So where do you get to a point? And I actually believed at one point I had the authority to speak as somebody who could help people. And now,
I'm glad you realized that you don't have that authority.
And now I'm like on this back end where not only do I not have the authority, I don't want to.
Well, that's why you say you see some people kind of doing a reverse jealousy when you see someone that's just coming up into their spiritual awakening. It's like that initial phase of it. It is, what a beautiful time. You're full of hope. You're full of love. You want to share. Why do you think the Mormon Church sends out missionaries when they're like young, vibrant, and
Yeah.
I guess they send them out when they're old and got nothing better to do too. But you just feel that urge to share, and I don't think there's anything wrong with people who are coming into their healing gifts and their awakening to seek some kind of financial. At that point, you're feeling these things and you want to kind of prove it to yourself. You're feeling this response from people, and it's like, is this really happening? Do I know what I'm talking about? Do I possess these healing gifts? And when someone actually pays you to do it, it's validation. Should it be? Maybe not. But in our system and in our psychology and in our everyday lives and the way we have to live in this country, you're right. Money is our reward system. It's when someone actually pays you for that kind of service for the first time, it's so validating, and it pushes you to, okay, now how can I take this further too? I mean, it's a motivational thing for sure, but you eventually kind of plateau, and it's kind of like you get awakened, and so you want to work through your pain. You work through your pain, you see someone else in pain, you want to help them work through their pain. And then when you've done that kind of twice, you've worked through yours and you've helped another person through it, then you kind of hit this plateau where you're like, so do I let go of this pain, or do I keep relating this pain to help other people through this pain? And it may differ for everyone how many times you have to go through it before you can release it. And then you have so many releases and you're at a plateau again. And it's like, instead of my spirituality being something I'm doing, it's become who I am.
Right.
And so then it's not this other. And that's when you run into, is this how I want to make money? Then that's when it like kind of butts up against your other side that's like, since this is who I am, what else do I want to do?
Right. Well,
Just
take away your
this?
spirituality, and who are you? That's what and that's where you got to start finding the balance. When you take, okay, so
it's a process.
you become this.
Like
you come to
else.
this point where it's like like your spirituality becomes everything. And if you were to say, if you take your spirituality out of it, now who are you? And that's when you have to work on your human form, because we're both spirit and human. So you can't neglect the human. And all of the so now it's like, okay, so I'm kind of at this point in my life where I've removed the spirit. I'm really not feeling a whole lot of enlightenment on anything, but that's okay. It needs to go away. It needs to, maybe that's what this retrograde is. Like, I need spirit to be gone so I can look at my physical form and go, what have we been neglecting while we've been playing in spirit?
Right.
And also, how can you physically be happy? Because physically you need to be happy as much as you need to spiritually be happy, you know?
Yeah, and I know for a lot of starseeds and a lot of channelers and intuitives and Reiki masters and just spiritual people, gurus, everyone, I know 2019 was like a really strong year for downloads, and they weren't all love and light, and they weren't all very good news. There were flashes of 1 million possible apocalypses raining down on sensitive people for all last year. It was brutal. And now we're left with this kind of like, we've seen the visions. It's, we know what's possible. We're in this like chess move standoff. We're ready to respond. I think healers are ready to respond, but it's almost like, at what point do we, like, what is the sign we're all collectively waiting for?
To let it all go, or to like I don't know. There's this word ascension, which kind of has with it the connotation that it's instant, like you are quick. Right. And it's just not.
It's not. And so I personally, I don't feel as negative or as down as I did last year. Things are equally as bleak as they were a couple months ago, if not more. Now there's a pandemic on top of everything.
I mean, just personally, there's
sure,
a lot of stress level right now.
Right, everyone's a microcosm of
but somehow we're handling it better.
Yeah.
So far.
So far. Anyway, I was just, when you said it's okay to kind of turn off spirit for a while, it's like all these downloads and all this stuff raining down. We were all sharing it with each other, and we were like getting cathartic about it for a little bit, and then it just kind of like someone turned off the mic. Just mic drop and walked away. And that's how it's kind of been for me. And then the past probably 3 weeks or so, I've started to have some little trickles back in, but nothing like what I was experiencing at like the height of November last year. It was just like so much static going on in my thoughts and overthinking and these downloads and these scenarios. And if we do this now, maybe we can prevent this then. And that time has come and passed, and nothing manifested, nothing happened, and we didn't make any changes, but it's just this weird kind of static buzz right now.
I was thinking about the idea of manifestation the other day, and how it's like if you want something bad enough, you can manifest it, and how I heard somebody talking about manifestation and visualizing, and if you just visualize it enough, your brain, your universe that you exist in will think it's real and make it happen in the real universe. And I was just thinking, I don't know that that's true. I think what is possible is you can envision something and see it so much to the point where you don't need it anymore. Like if you can let your imagination take you to what it's like, you can live there and get sick of it and move out of there before you
without actually having to manifest there. pay all the karmic dues associated with
right.
molecular physicality.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly.
I did. I wanted to visit that scenario in my mind. I really thought it was going to be a little bit better than that. Not really wanting to build that reality anymore.
Instead of being jealous of people who have it, and instead of like thinking and like you want always you think if I have this, life's going to be great. Let yourself go there in your head and have this.
Yeah.
But actually go there to live it.
You know, Deborah Mars actually gave me a ton of advice about just channeling, and I had kind of talked to her a little bit about like some of the terrible imagery I was picking up in my head. But I used to like not be able to watch horror movies either, because like if I saw a really horrific scene, it would stick in my head and just replay and replay and replay. So I was having these weird kind of apocalyptic shitty visions and everything, and I was talking to her about it, and she's like, you know, you really even have to be careful. I was naive. Me personally, I was kind of naive when I first came into my spiritual awakening and my channeling. I thought that every voice that came through obviously meant something like divine and good. You definitely can like pick up other bad vibe waves out there when you're playing open mic night in the multiverse. Keep your wits about you out there. Like, don't automatically think that like, because she even warned me, like, be careful, because sometimes they, like, say really nice things at first, and they sound really good. And, you know, it just makes me wonder, like, some higher ascended humans are up there experimenting with some shit up there in the higher dimension, and it's, like, bouncing off the wall and coming down to this dimension, and I'm not supposed to really be hearing it at all, but I'm picking up on their weird shit. It's like, I don't know, the world's getting flatter and the dimensions are getting closer. Maybe we're headed towards the singularity.
It's possible.
Maybe that's yeah, I mean, you just said ascension. It's kind of the same thing, ain't it?
Yeah, like what are we heading toward?
The transcendental object at the end of time.
I mean, I think we're already there. It's just a matter of pulling the layers of shit off the top of it.
Instagram did kill the chronology. Was that the official end of time?
No, that was the official end of time on Instagram. That was the death of Instagram as a platform
I don't know. Where
for
do you live?
human connection.
Do you live more on planet Earth or more in planet Instagram?
I live more on planet Instagram, but
look at you.
That was the death of it.
You're making it real. There's no time in Instagram.
No, actually, there you go. There is no time in Instagram.
We already built the new dimension there. Or at least testing it out.
But there's still...
Your chronology is nigh.
But there's still another entity controlling the algorithm, and I don't necessarily know that it's for the common good. And knowing this
is that because it's
is why I
Facebook related?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But knowing this, I like to go in there, like you say, just being careful.
Keep your wits about you.
But also knowing what I'm allowed to say and like trying to fit my message into something that's gonna stay active, you know?
Yeah.
Like instead, like don't go out there, don't be a hero. You're just gonna get blocked. You're just gonna get banned. Like get your message out there with a different means.
Be a hero. I love a hero. If you can pull it off, be a hero. If you find your way through.
Don't be a hero that goes. Don't be a Knight of Swords.
Fair enough.
I mean, what's the point if you're dead?
Fair enough.
Be the guy at the end of the movie that's like, Kaiser Sose. You didn't even see it coming.
But we love a hero, especially a tragic one. If you want to be a Knight of Swords, maybe that's your non-linear karmic
Maybe. I
sigil.
mean, some people have to fall on the sword so that other people can slip behind them.
Some people have to learn I was going to say the false truth of nobility, but maybe it's that I've only known false nobility, that I wouldn't even recognize a real noble, fall on your sword kind of person if I met him.
You know, the invasion at Normandy?
What?
There were boats and boats and boats of men who knew that
Knew that they were going
they can
to
hear the
die.
bullets hitting the doors, knowing that as soon as those doors went down, the first wave of them were dead, and they only existed. Their whole job was to take the bullet so the next group can get out while their other people are reloading their guns, and thousands and thousands of young men went to their deaths.
It's trippy, isn't it?
And I just think there's like no way. Like is that a hero?
Yeah.
Because what was it for? In the big picture, we look at it from our perspective, but I'm sure in Germany they look at it from a different perspective.
I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. True nobility. To say, I am confronting an evil that is so perilous to the future of mankind that I will sacrifice myself just to try and take it down in whatever means I can. If I'm just a little tiny tick mark in the scratch pad of time that's 1/1,000,000th of an inch closer to taking down the end of time, the end of the world, the great evil, the
Well, maybe
bog of eternal stench, the nothing.
Maybe World War II is a wrong example,
Yeah.
just because it is so ingrained as the
I mean,
overcoming. But what about
It was the
what
end.
about Vietnam, where it was a completely political thing, and these men were still signing up as to be heroes to fight for their country? What about the Gulf War, where they're fighting for oil?
I mean, they used propaganda and indoctrination to
they're
train
using
them in a
fear.
false nobility that, I mean,
So how do you
it
know?
was
How do you know when it's the
engineered.
right time to go charging
It's-
in? When you
You don't. That's why war, what is it good for?
well, it's in anything. When do you know when to charge, and when do you know when you go into anything, if it's if you're going in to stop the Nazis, or if you're going into I don't know.
I guess that's where people say it's a feeling you feel in your heart when you that heroism is something that's deeply built into the heart of some people. They see a burning building and they rush in. It's innate in them to have that response, whether you view it as a defect or, I mean, it's the battle of the head and the heart. But heroes just, they click on. They have this feeling, and they follow their heart into battle. And does it turn out? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're the hero and you come back and they're throwing roses at you as you ride through your thing.
As many thousands of men died at
Sometimes
Normandy.
you can't believe.
Some of them lived.
You're so.
Imagine being that.
You're young. You're hitting your stride. You're hotter than you've ever been. Your body looks good, and there's a sword in your gullet, and it's over.
Yeah, just like that.
Literally like that. I mean, I can you compare the time frame? It's just every time someone has been able to command other people to die like that, there's always been a manipulation. And that's the hard part. I guess that's the hard part of us having faith and buying into the hero's journey sometimes. It's like, I know what gets asked of heroes.
Yeah.
How far are you willing to go, Michael? This is the enemy. What are you gonna do? This could be your one shot for your life to mean taking out the enemy, or facing your life watching the enemy succeed at destroying everything that you stand for. It's a heavy decision. It's weighty.
It is.
Oh, that shit got deep.
I don't want to be this deep.
You better
pull it up.
Pull it up.
So spiritual awakening.
Sheesh, man. Sorry about that, Coke.
So let's pull back to spiritual competition, because we've seen a lot of spiritual competition in our day. I'm not going to name any names or even give any real examples, but the world of spiritual coaches is
competitive.
dicey.
It's as competitive as Figure skating?
Yes. Or if not more.
You have to have outfits. They have to kind of match. If you have you have to have a divine masculine version and a divine feminine version of any duo with outfits. And you got to take pictures of each other.
So
It's
I don't
tricky.
know. I don't know. Maybe we don't need to touch upon it.
It's tricky.
I don't want to offend anybody.
I don't want to offend anybody either, but it's like,
I just think you all actually are doing a disservice if you were helping somebody through a spiritual awakening. Like, you're meant
That's
to
not
take
fair.
that travel. You're meant to
No,
take
no,
that
no,
journey. You're meant to
no.
take that journey.
you're meant to follow your intuition and find friends along the way who will help you with it. Now, does that mean unhealthy attachments and codependency? Does that mean someone in the spiritual community overcharging a vulnerable person? When they're also just using them for their very first marketing tool ever? Like, don't become predatory upon each other. I mean, competition is great. I live for it. What else is going to nudge you towards striving to be better and more interesting and creative? Competition is where it's at, but don't be predatory towards your fellow man when they open up their vulnerabilities to you. That ain't cool.
No.
Also, don't live in your pain
But
forever to
then-
market the same old art schlep.
But then also,
Get over
if
something.
if somebody finds somebody vulnerable and overcharges them and it actually helps them, I don't know what I'm saying. I've just seen a lot of lost broken friendships and relationships based on people who couldn't hang together in the same spiritual communities, as ridiculous
but
as it
why
sounds.
do all friendships need to be a long-term thing? Why do we put these expectations on friendships, especially like Instagram relationships? Can you meet someone on there and vibe with them in conversation for a whole week and then run out of things to say? Sure. Does that lessen the experience and what you shared? No. That's the beautiful thing of the dimension where time doesn't exist, and you don't actually have to drive 3 hours and spend, a physical token of your already dwindling collection in order to relate to someone or argue with someone, learn something from someone, share an emotional, vulnerable moment. We're so lucky to live in this time. Compete, but don't be predatory.
I guess I could see your point. I feel like I'm in the grumpy old man
You are
stage of my
so-
spiritual awakening. You know what I
It's
mean?
not just your
It's like,
spiritual awakening, it's also when you're driving
well, I
and when you're eating in public.
I expect so much from other people.
What's your deal?
I don't know. I'm upset. I guess, and goes right back to what I'm talking about, including spiritual competition. There's just a lack of and I've lost the word, of just common treatment. Nobody will treat each other. Like, what's the word? I lost the word. Courtesy. There's no common courtesy. There's no courtesy at all. Nobody gives anybody any courtesy. Everybody is pulling out in front of each other. Everybody's running through the red
On the road
lights.
or on Instagram?
Both. That's what I'm saying. I'm using the road as not just Instagram.
I'm sorry that you're having that experience.
I'm using the road. I'm just not feeling common courtesy with other drivers. And I'm not feeling a lot of common courtesy with spiritual coaches, between spiritual coaches.
Perhaps you need to check your privilege.
Okay. I don't know. I just don't want to see people. I don't know. It's just all part of it, I guess. It's if the placebo works, is it placebo?
Sure. I guess.
And if someone can make money selling placebo, someone might as well make money selling placebo.
Can I get personal?
Sure.
What what are your expectations for courtesy on something like Instagram? When you say no one's being courteous, they're running through red lights, like what does that mean? Like what are your expectations?
It's just, I just expect, I don't know, I just think that I guess I'm not seeing synergy. And I don't know, I'm not, and like, it's just me. Like, I'm not the voice of authority. By no means should it be the way I see it. I'm usually 99.9% wrong, while in the moment I think I'm 100% right. So it's just me, and I'd like to see people working together to do and maybe it's just me not having brought together the right network or joined the right network, but I like to see different people doing their own different things as part of a group, And what I see is when groups are forming, everybody wants to do the same thing, and everybody wants to do the same thing better than the other person wants to do it. And then the first person gets mad because they're like, well, why are you doing the thing I wanted to do? And it's like, who's to say you're the one that gets to do it? You know what I mean? And then it's not anything that ever gets said. It's just stuff that I see as I scroll through. I don't know. I experience a lot scrolling through Instagram. I scroll through Instagram a lot. I take in pictures of what's happening and comments of what people say to each other. And it just, sometimes I judge because I'm human too.
Okay, I don't think you're being judgy for the sake of being judgy. I think your perspective, what is your intention when you're scrolling Instagram? Like, and like, you seem to have been called to serve in some capacity. You've got this mindset that you're on. I don't want to like project too much onto you. I want you to kind of explore it. But when we talk next time, try to articulate like what this mission of yours is. That these things are jumping out at you as like, I'm seeing this when I want to see this. Like, why aren't you just like seeing what you're seeing, looking to look? Like you're seeking. And don't answer now. But next time we talk, declare your mission statement.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. Follow Holly on Instagram at Ursus Esperanto. Follow Mark on Instagram at tincan.telephone. And be sure to follow us and read our cosmic messages on Instagram at A Higher Source. Participation in the digital realm will only help you transition between dimensions. We are free of our earthly forms in the digital realm. We flow through numbers. We write poetry in ones and zeros. Do you consider yourself a star seed? Would you like to speak with Holly and Mark about your experiences in this dimension? Contact us on Instagram at A Higher Source and let us know. We'd love to add your voice to the conversation. Tune in next week as Holly and Mark continue their fall down the rabbit hole, as they continue to peel back the layers of what it means to be a human living in the physical realm. Donations to A Higher Source are always welcomed. If you feel enriched from our message today, please consider visiting www.ahighersource.org and throwing a few dollars our way to help cover the costs of this earthly endeavor. Listen to A Higher Source on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and all of your favorite podcast apps. You can also listen on Open Lines Radio along with the other Open Lines Radio collection of podcasts at www.openlinesradio.com. Thank you for joining us. Until next week, we'll see you in the digital realm. Come play.